Donald J. Trump is considering to run for a third term, stating that he is serious about running and that there are multiple ways for him to actually be able to do this. I will be testing a hypothetical matchup between Donald Trump slash JD Vance against Barack Obama slash Mark Kelly in the 2028 presidential election. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. So, the only realistic way that I see Donald Trump being able to run again is if the 22nd Amendment is somehow bypassed or it is overridden by Congress, which would allow Barack Obama to run for re-election. And I actually think that he'd give it a go if Donald Trump decided to run for a third term and he was allowed himself to also run for a third term. Now, it would be interesting because Donald Trump would have a weakness in this election of basically getting the Constitution, changed and being able to run again. A lot of independents wouldn't like that. However, with Obama in the picture, it actually kind of cancels out that independent hatred from that end because Barack Obama is also running for a third term, just like Donald Trump. And so the voters that are mad about both sides running again would basically wash out, and you'd kind of have somewhat of a normal election this time. Now, Barack Obama would win the national popular vote by about a point. I'd say Barack Obama probably gets about roughly 82, 83 million votes. Donald Trump would get about 79, about 80 million votes, something to that effect, maybe 81 million. It'd be a very, very high turnout election this go around. And so for the safe states, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska, the first congressional district would be in the safe column for Donald Trump. Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, Missouri, South Carolina would also be in this column as well, with the state of Iowa and Ohio being over 12-point wins. Iowa would get redder than the last election. It was a 13.2 percentage point win in this one. It ends up being a 14.8 percentage point win in 2028, with Donald Trump winning the state of Ohio by 15 points. Texas would end up going down, as well as Florida. These would get significantly closer on the electoral map. Alaska in this election would be a little bit higher than what it voted by in 2024, like half a point redder. And Maine's second congressional district would swing to the right in that cycle. So we do see Barack Obama does underperform with college whites. Well, not with college whites. He actually does better than Harris with that group. But he does underperform with non-college white voters in this hypothetical election, which is why Iowa and Ohio would be moving to the right here, while Barack Obama actually gains with black voters and actually does decent with Hispanic voters. That's why Texas and Florida, including with the college educated shift, that's why those states end up moving back to the left slightly in this hypothetical. California, Oregon, Washington, these would all just be safe states. They're all over 12 points. Oregon would actually move to the left, to the right very slightly, with, Washington moving to the left by a little bit. California would move back to the left by a few points due to some resurgence with the black vote for Obama. Colorado would end up being over 12 points once again, as well as Illinois and New York shifting back. Illinois would now be back in the safe column, as well as the state of New York, which it already was in the last cycle, barely above safe though. But it was, only a 13-point win for Harris. I think Obama would improve slightly there, but not much. I think Vermont, Massachusetts, DC, Maryland, those states would be in the safe column, as well as Delaware, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, despite Rhode Island actually getting closer than what it was in 2024. So that's interesting. Hawaii would be slightly closer at just 19 points for Obama, with Maine's first congressional district being in the safe column for the former president. And looking at the rest of the states here, we see pretty much the swing states on the map. Virginia and New Mexico would be likely margins. New Mexico just 6.7%, so it's slightly bluer than what it was in 2024. And Virginia ends up going back into the likely column at 7.5 points for Barack Obama, with New Jersey would actually move back by 2 points as well. So you kind of see some reversion in those states there as of right now. And you see in the state of Arizona, Donald Trump would win by 2.3%. Obama has never really had a particularly good strength in Arizona, and so I think he would end up losing the state. Nevada would also end up tipping into Donald Trump's column at 3.8%. So it actually moved to the right from 2024 very slightly. The state is becoming more non-college educated, so that has a big factor to play in here as well. North Carolina actually ends up staying about exactly the same as the last election. It's exactly the same margin, 3.2%. You do have some movements in the Research Triangle with some movements in rural areas kind of canceling it out, and it basically ends up being the same margin. New Hampshire in this one is really interesting. It voted for Harris by 2.8. It ends up voting for Obama by 4.8. It is an anti-incumbent state, so it would swing away quite significantly, with Maine only being about a 2-point win for Obama. Maine in 2028 is interesting because the trends there are not looking good at all for Democrats. I mean, when you factor in approval ratings, maybe things would be different, but things are not looking so great for Democrats in terms of the trend in Maine going forward. Now, looking at these final states, Minnesota would actually still be under 5 or under 6 points, a 4.1 percentage point win. So it actually moves to the right very slightly. And then Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, I mean, these states would end up being in the lean column for Donald Trump. He'd improve in all of the states here, with Wisconsin being the reddest one going forward. And you look at Nebraska second, that is in the likely column for Obama. He would end up winning it, with the state of Georgia breaking off and voting for Obama by, I think, roughly 2 points. He'd get really high turnout in at the Atlanta area, and I think he would end up picking off the state of Georgia, and that's the one that he takes back from Donald Trump from the 2024 election. But I think with Barack Obama's weakness with Rust Belt voters due to his signing of TPP, which is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was something that lost a lot of jobs for people in those areas, I think Obama would actually be a weaker candidate in that area than even somebody like Kamala Harris, but he would make gains in other places like the Sun Belt. He'd make enough gains to flip back Georgia, but not enough to win Arizona or Nevada. And so that is it for my hypothetical 2028 map with Donald Trump versus Barack Obama. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.